There is nothing like a fast finishing kick to make you feel unstoppable at the end of a race. Now, I was just interviewed by Runner's World about how to develop a really strong finishing kick at the end of a race. And in this video, I want to talk about the main components of a fast kick. So when you're in the training process, when you are actually doing the workouts, the volume, the long runs, all the things that we need to do to become good distance runners, you know what to focus on. So the next time you're in a race, whether it's a mile, a 5K, a half marathon, you know exactly how to train so that you can finish strong every time. But before we start, I have to admit that you don't always want the best possible finishing kick that you can possibly muster at the end of every race. And that's because a kick has to be balanced between the energy that you put into the race earlier in the race. So if you just kind of sandbag the race and you run the first 80% of the distance at a very easy effort, you're probably going to have an amazing finishing kick, but your overall finishing time isn't going to be as good as it could be. So a fast kick is something that you want to be strong. You want it to definitely be faster than your average pace that you're going to run for the race, but you don't want it so fast that it means you could have run a faster time if you had run faster earlier in the race. So in this balancing act, you have to find that fine line, and it is going to take some trial and error. Here is where we really get to, you striving to be a finely tuned athlete, right? When you race frequently, when you know how to pace yourself, you're gonna know exactly how hard to push during most of the race so that you still have a little bit left at the end to give it your best and have that strong finishing kick. Okay, let's talk about the first ingredient of a really good finishing kick. Number one, it's gotta be your aerobic fitness, your endurance. And this is why we still do aerobic workouts, even if we're training for a race as short as, say, the mile, the 2 mile, or the 5,000 meters. And that's because if you are so tired at the end of a race aerobically, you're never going to be able to tap into that higher power output to have a good finishing kick. So at a bare minimum, we've got to make sure that we're comfortable with the distance before we ever hope to finish it really strong. So for example, if you're hoping to finish a 10K really fast, but you're a relatively new runner and your longest run is only 5 or 6 miles, the distance itself is a little bit of an unknown. You're not going to feel very fresh 5.5 miles into that race because this is the maximum that your body has ever been out there running. And so because of that, you're not going to have the endurance at 5.5 miles to really draw that power out from your body and run faster and faster at the end of a race. Now, in a marathon, we're not really going to be able to do this. We're not going to be able to run more than 26 miles to get used to the distance, but most mere mortals should not have a strong finishing kick at the end of a marathon. All your energy has to be meted out earlier in the race. So this video is more for the non-marathoners out there, where a finishing kick is much more appropriate. So let's develop that aerobic fitness. Let's focus on the long run. Let's focus on our easy aerobic volume, the frequency of our running. Let's try to get running 5 or 6 times a week if possible. And we can always supplement with cross training to help bridge the gap between lower mileage and higher mileage. Aerobic workouts like lactate threshold, half marathon pace, these are also amazing workouts that are going to help you be able to go to the well and draw in the muscle fiber recruitment and anaerobic power reserves you need at the end of a race to finish strong. Okay, once you have built that aerobic foundation, once you have the endurance to actually feel somewhat capable at the end of a race, the next step is to ensure that you can actually recruit all those muscle fibers so that you can run really hard at the end of a race. So one of the things that we do for this is we do speed development work and we do heavy weightlifting. We've got to do our strides a couple times a week. If we can do some hill sprints, that's going to be really beneficial as well because you're running up a steep hill at max intensity, just like a very heavy squat or deadlift, you are recruiting many, many more muscle fibers than if you were simply even running easy pace, 10K pace, or 5K pace. Partly, this is a game of muscle fiber recruitment, and so we want to have the capacity to recruit as many muscle fibers as possible. Now, besides strides and heavy weightlifting, hill sprints, uphill strides, there are some kinds of workouts that help us recruit more muscle fibers and get better at this particular skill of racing. So a couple different things. Number one, we want to do what Jack Daniels calls R workouts, or repetition workouts. We might be running very short reps of 100 meters, 200 meters, 300 meters, but we're going to be doing them very, very quickly. And we're going to get a good amount of rest. So these workouts are fast. They're not necessarily the hardest workouts you're going to do because you are giving yourself adequate rest and the repetition length is actually fairly short. So these are great workouts for practicing running very fast, for developing the coordination and athleticism to run very, very fast. And that's going to come in handy at the end of a race when you want to run as fast as possible. And then finally, any workout where you are running almost as hard as you can. You know, I'm reminded of some of my college workouts where our coach would say, we're gonna run this workout at best effort. Now, in hindsight, I don't think running a lot of workouts at best effort, which is what, a race effort, the best you can possibly do, is necessarily a good idea. You don't want to do this a lot. But once in a while, it is appropriate to do a workout where you go to the well, you see God, you essentially go really hard and see what you can do. Because what you're doing is essentially the same thing as a finishing kick. You're running as hard as you can. So all of these workouts are going to help build the skills needed for that kick so that you can finish strong at the end of any race. I could not make these videos without your support. So first, let me say thank you. And this video is brought to you by our very own Performance Training Journal. I have always been in love with hard copy training journals for a few really good reasons. Number one, when I was a new runner and I started keeping an actual training journal like this, I learned so much more about the sport and myself just by that practice. It really forces you to reflect on your training, to think more deeply about what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And if you are constantly reflecting on your training, praising yourself for what's going right, planning for the future, and then looking back on what has previously worked for you, you are gonna really know yourself as a runner, and you're gonna start to make wiser decisions about your training. I also created this training journal because I want you to focus on the training metrics that actually matter. The training metrics that help you improve, get better, and progress with your running. We don't have to focus on everything. We just need to focus on what matters. I also took a lot of inspiration from professional runners that I've talked to on the Strength Running podcast. They're adamant by completing a training journal and reflecting on what works for you and actually giving yourself some praise within your journal. You're essentially completing a gratitude journal. You are building up your confidence in your own abilities over time. And when you look back on that journal before a big goal race, you are going to be reading in your own words why you're capable, why you can do this. And I can think of nothing more confidence building than an act like that. So I hope you check out the new Performance Training Journal. It is now available on Amazon. It debuted as the #4 new release in the running category, and I could not be more proud of it. So thank you again for subscribing to the Strength Running YouTube channel, and I hope you enjoy the Performance Training Journal. And of course, we definitely want those power workouts, those anaerobic power workouts, because we are going to be deep in the pain cave during any finishing kick. And if you want to be able to power through that discomfort, we really need to make sure that you experience it in training first. And here's where any VO2 max workout where you're running maybe 600 to 1,000 meters as the repetition length, and we're running it at a, say, 3K to 5K race effort. This is gonna give us an incredible VO2 max training stimulus, because this is where you're going to be during a finishing kick. You are going to be in oxygen debt, However, you're also going to be trying to run as hard as you can. So you need that yin yang of aerobic fitness so that you're not completely tapping out, but also the anaerobic power needed to muscle through that oxygen debt and get you to the finish line. The aerobic fitness allows you to tap into the anaerobic power, and the anaerobic power allows you to tap into more muscle fiber recruitment so that you can run, hopefully, nearly as fast as you can at the end of a race. Those are the 3 physiological skills that you need to develop to ensure that you have the best possible finishing kick. Now, those are the physical skills that you have to build over time. There's also a mental component to this, because let's be honest, running as hard as you can when you're deep in the pain cave, when you're in oxygen debt, when you just want to be at the finish line is really psychologically challenging. And so we do need a healthy dose of mental toughness at the end of a race to get us through this very uncomfortable period of racing. And nothing prepares you for this quite like actually being in the moment. And so I want to encourage you to get out there on the race course a little bit more frequently. If you're running 2 5Ks a year, you're just not going to have the experience to get comfortable being uncomfortable at the end of a race. So the frequency of racing, especially when we're talking about these shorter distances of say a mile to a 10K, you're going to be able to race these distances much more frequently. And with more frequent racing, you're going to stop putting the race on such a pedestal. You're going to realize, hey, it's just running, even though it really hurts and it's uncomfortable. It's not going to kill me. I'm going to be okay. It doesn't matter if I kind of mail it in over the last half a mile or give it my all, it's still going to be uncomfortable either way. So I might as well give it 100%. And so here is where it really is beneficial for you to race frequently so that you put yourself in this position where you can iterate and tweak your approach over time. Maybe you find out that you can kick hard with 200 meters to go in any race, and that's not really the problem. But psychologically, you challenge yourself to do it a quarter mile out or a half mile out. You can start experimenting with longer, slower kicks to see how you feel and potentially get you that faster finishing time. But no matter what you're doing, we've got to do it frequently so that you have the opportunities to actually build that great finishing kick. I remember probably one of the best finishing kicks that I ever had in my life was when I closed a 3,000 meter indoor track race with a 31-second 200 meter final lap. That was pretty good for me at the time, and something I was like, wow, I probably am never going to close a race nearly at 4-minute mile pace again. So that's probably my best finishing kick. It was in 2006, which was arguably one of the best years of my racing career. And when I look back at other races, there were certainly races where I might have closed the final half mile faster than that, but this race was my PR. And here is where the fine line of trying to have a good kick, but at the same time run the earlier part of the race at full effort is really important. The only way you're going to get there is through trial and error, is through a lot of experience, some failures, and a lot of victories too. So I hope this video was helpful. You can check out the finished article on Runner's World about how to develop a faster finishing kick. It's going to include a lot of the same information, plus some perspectives of other coaches. But nevertheless, this is one of the best ways to feel really good as a runner. It really helps you feel competent, capable. It helps you feel strong. So I want to encourage every runner to try to have a really good finishing kick. There is nothing more exciting than finishing a race feeling fast and strong.